Thanks for joining us today. Quick civics lesson. Did you know that Vermont has a Liberty Union Party? And they're on the ballot for a number of both statewide and local races, including the Windham County State Senate contest. And we have the two Windham County State Senate candidates for Liberty Union with us. Aaron Diamondstone and Jerry Levi. Aaron is to my right, Jerry is to my left. Now, I want to just have the folks get to know you a little bit. Jerry, you and I have talked over the years, and you say you're now retired?
Yes, I taught at Marlborough College for many years, and I'm totally retired.
Oh my. Well, time flies when you're having a good time.
That's right.
And Aaron, I've talked numerous times with your dad, Peter, over the years, and you tell me that you're a plumber.
Yeah.
So, what, may I ask, as a retiree and a plumber, doing running for office? And both of you, I'd like to chime in.
For me, it's easy. Jerry's been a friend of the family's for a long time, and we both see the world similarly, I think, and we're trying to make a difference, make a change, and offer the voters a real choice.
Well, I believe in the values of the Liberty Union Party, and as you know, I've been a candidate for the U.S. Senate many times, maybe 6 or 7. And this is my first attempt at local office. So I think probably I'm, for better or worse, I'm very well known in this county.
So how do the values of the Liberty Union Party translate themselves to the local and statewide level, even if you agree with the statement that a former politician once made that all politics are local?
Well, we have the same problems in Brattleboro and Windham County that we have all over the world. Incredible inequities of wealth. A very small percentage of the global and U.S. population own the vast majority of wealth. And that's the reason why we can't provide services to everyone. Healthcare, education, jobs, all the things we need, all that we attempt to do is limited by the fact that there are tremendous inequities in wealth. And some people have most of it and everybody else has very little. So the Liberty Union Party wants to do something about addressing that.
From my point of view, capitalism is the biggest crime there is. The way I look at it is that the world has finite amount of resources, and capitalism is based on growth. And once we're tired or can't afford to keep buying things, new emerging markets need to be found, and eventually that means population growth. And I don't think the world can support the amount of people that live here now in a healthy, humane way.
So how does a society create its wealth, and whose responsibility is it for the basic necessities? Is it the individual? Is it your government? Is it charity?
It's all three, and not any of the three exclusively. The world has a finite amount of resources. It has water, it has land, it can grow food, it has air. It's our responsibility as a total society to maintain that, and it's our responsibility to provide a system in which everybody can live in dignity. The way the world is now, a very small percentage of the U.S., of the people of Vermont, and of the world live in dignity. By living in dignity, I mean that we shouldn't have to lose sleep every night over how we're going to pay our rent, how we're going to feed our food, feed ourselves with food, how we're going to take care of our seniors, how we're going to be taken care of when we get sick. All of those things pose tremendous anxiety for everyone because there's this sense of scarcity, and there is scarcity because a few people own the vast majority of resources and wealth.
But in Vermont, isn't that less of a problem than it is elsewhere? Last time I checked, we only had one so-called billionaire among the people residing in this state.
Yeah, we may have one billionaire, but we have a lot of billionaires who visit and who own property here, and we have multimillionaires. The point is not to belabor the point, but to say, how can we as a society, through government, through volunteerism, and through some kind of consensus, create a more sane world than we have? And I think the Liberty Union Party is more committed to that than others. Because the two major, let's face it, there's many fine Democrats and Republicans and independents in this state, but they're controlled by the big money.
And I said last night at a forum that I think that they're trying to put a Band-Aid on a broken system. And there are still lots of people in Brattleboro that live under bridges, and the overflow shelter is overflowing, and there are a lot of people that don't have health care.
How many thousands of children in Windham County and Brattleboro don't have enough good food? How many of our teachers, our humanistic professionals, our tradespeople are unemployed? Why aren't the talents of these people being used? And how many people are employed, are working for minimum wage or $8 or $9, $10 an hour? You know, $10 an hour, $400 a week, $1,600 a month. That's $19,200 a year for a family of four, just above or below the poverty rate. What does it take to live in dignity in Brattleboro? Well, I'd say at least $25,000, $30,000 a person. And how many, and what percentage of the people who are not formally called poor are actually poor because they have to struggle to pay the rent, to buy the food? How many people can't shop at the Brattleboro Food Co-op, all that wonderful food, because they can't afford it? How many people can't take advantage of the wonderful arts in this area because they can't afford $7 for a ticket for a movie or $10 for a play, or they can't afford to send their children to the youth theater?
He makes a pretty good argument as far as I'm concerned.
You two have probably been involved in a number of discussions over the years, I bet. Just having that kind of debate, as many houses have a chance to, just very, very healthy. So,
well, Aaron, unlike his father, is soft-spoken, but very bright, very knowledgeable. I'm actually just getting to know him. We've known each other for 40 years, but because we are coordinating this electioneering together, I'm really getting to know him. He is a fine individual, and he would make a wonderful senator, much better than me.
I disagree. I think you'd be much better.
Then I think I have to ask our prospective senators here. You list in your platform a legislative commitment to end poverty. Gosh, let's see. Franklin Delano Roosevelt took it on in the Great Depression. Lyndon Baines Johnson did the war on poverty. Someone as would be Dick Snelling did a major jobs program in the early 80s, and there have been other efforts to end poverty. What would you two do that would be any different?
Well, all of those, I don't know about Dick Snelling, but all of those presidents were war presidents, fighting over who's going to control the global political economy. We are an anti-war party. It's in our platform that we don't have to go to war, no matter what those people in Washington tell us. And what we would do is we would say, well, what are our resources? How many teachers do we need? How many social workers? How many physicians? How many plumbers? And we would make sure that all those people who wanted to do those wonderful things would have meaningful work that is adequately compensated for. The doctor and the plumber, maybe they wouldn't make exactly the same, but it would be in the same ballpark. Until we ended poverty, there'd be a maximum income and a minimum income for every man, woman, gender combination, however you want to say it, and child. And we would together, not through violent revolution, but together we would say, where are our resources? Who has them? Who owns the resources? And how are we going to voluntarily, and the rich would have their say too, and they're not going to be put in re-education camps, and they're not going to be put in jail, but how can we reason together to provide a dignified life for everyone?
And to be honest, my position is maybe even more drastic than that. I'd like to see us move from the system of capitalism we have now through socialism and to ideal communism, where everybody's time is valued equally and everybody's working for the common good, because I see capitalism destroying this world and the human race.
So I want to run down the rest of your common platform, which I understand is, as all liberty union politics is done, is by consensus.
That's correct.
No, we figured this. We figured this out ourselves. This
Really?
is well. Whenever I was a candidate for the U.S. Senate, I had my own platform. We figured this out. We asked the advice of our colleagues. No one said that was totally off base, but this is ours, me and Aaron's.
So what would a state bank, as you say, to fund social programs and meaningful work do? How would it fit in the existing banking system within our state?
Yeah, we hope to a great extent it would supplant the banking
eliminate
system because all of the profits would, the people who work for the bank would be paid a salary. The person who checks out the money and the bank president, there would not be that much different between them. People would be into banking because they want to have a decent salary, but the bank would be fed by our own tax system, decoupled from the federal tax system. It would take in donations of individuals, wealthy people who wanted to contribute to the bank would contribute to make a very modest profit, and the bank would build up a tremendous amount of equity that would then be used to fund the things that we say we can't fund. So we would have a state bank that was nonprofit, that was totally concerned with raising money for the purpose of offering all Vermonters a dignified life. That's one way. We would also reform our tax system so that we would have our own Social Security system. We would have our own way of taxing capital gains. We would have our own way of taxing people who have their estates here and come and use them once a year. We would evolve a variety of ways of taking more money from that billionaire, but also from the people who may not be billionaires, but they may be millionaires. They may have a lot of money, and they would choose to stay in Vermont because they have enough to live on, and they want to be part of a great social experiment, which is really committed to wiping out poverty, providing health care for everyone, cradle to grave health care and education.
I see the Vermont Bank taking a portion of Citibank and Chase Mellon, their share, and all the profits that went other places, staying local, staying in Vermont, helping to subsidize Vermont needs.
But taking a cue from the so-called too big to fail comments, would this be too small to work, or how do you make it work?
Well, it wouldn't be so small if it was adequately funded. In other words, if there was a commitment of everybody in the state, including the wealthy, including to make this bank real and to make it nonprofit, to provide jobs for people who live in Vermont. Remember the stimulus package and where they fixed up all the streets? What percentage of that money went to people who actually lived in Vermont, and what percentage went to unions that were providing construction workers from outside the state because they had made some kind of deal? I don't know the answer, but I think we should ask the question.
All right. And while you're at it, there's something about a change in health care. The Affordable Care Act is being looked upon as a stepping stone to what some would call Vermont's push towards single-payer health care. How do you two feel about that? And is single-payer something that you would support, or do you have something different in mind?
I have something different in mind. As far as I lost my health care when this new program went through. Some glitch, I don't know what it was, but anyway, I don't think there should be any profits made on health care. I think that's a basic need. And so I think that should be all health care from cradle to grave, as Jerry said, should be just a human right. We need to take care of our sick and our unhealthy, and the people that need it deserve to be treated well.
Well, we have to take control of healthcare away from the insurance companies and the pharmaceutical companies and the AMA, because they are intent on serving the 1% and the 100th of 1%. And again, everybody knows it. We don't have to say it. Like cream, the wealth is going to the top, and we are left with the diluted sour milk in the cup on the table, the scraps on the table, and the crumbs on the floor. So regarding health care, if we go around the insurance companies, if we get rid of all the bureaucratic paraphernalia, if we provide as much, if we really figure out how many doctors and healthcare workers we need, companions for the poor, special education, all of these services, it would employ millions of people. These people would be given an adequate wage. They would spend their money. All of us would be heavily taxed at some point, up to 95% if there was a maximum income. And everybody would know that they could afford to get sick. They would be able to go into the food co-op and buy that good food. The people who work at the food co-op would start maybe at $30,000, $35,000 a year. What are they making now? They would have health care. They would be able to afford the food. All of these things would work together if we decided that this is what we want to do. But we don't want to do it because we're scared of alienating the rich people who give a little bit to charity. And I'm not against wealth. I'm not against rich people. People who know me know that I'm not, but I feel that there has to be some reapportionment of wealth if we're going to say the things that we claim to want to do, especially in Vermont.
I see people, well-intentioned in my judgment, that are trying to make this system work, and I don't think it can. We need to make drastic changes.
But what's the incentive for someone to work hard if you tell them, well, if you work hard enough and you're really successful, I'm going to take 95% of what you make?
You know as well as I, Tim, you work hard because you love it. You don't make a lot of money. And if you were assured that your 6 grandchildren, and now that you're a great-grandfather, if you are assured that they're going to have the education they need, if they're going to have the food they need, if they're going to have the jobs, if we're going to do something about global warming, and if you were assured of all those services, you would be willing to give up more than what you have. It's because you realize that we live in a Hobbesian dog-eat-dog world, so you have to protect what you have, and everybody does. But, you know, you're a good guy. I know that you're a humanist. But everybody is put in the position of having to protect themselves. Well, if we work together, it doesn't have to be like that. I still believe that. I'm 74 years old. I still believe that there's a part of human nature that wants to provide for everyone, and there's a part of human nature where everybody would gladly give up most of what they have if they knew that their family and everybody else's family was well provided for.
I want to ask you both, how do we use Vermont resources for a dignified life for all without endangering whether we've reached critical mass and we're overusing our resources?
That's a good question. That's a good question.
I'm not sure I follow the question. Could you repeat it?
In the 1820s, Vermont had sheep farming as one of its major industries, and we were 80% deforested.
Right.
Now it's more or less the other way around. So how do we survive and thrive as a society?
I have an answer.
Okay.
My answer is we have tremendous agricultural potential in this state. We have the talents of thousands of wonderfully trained humanistic people who have moved here. Let's find a balance between forest and agriculture. Let's grow the right food in the right way. Let's use the people who are here to provide the services that Vermonters need. Let's really be the model for the rest of the society that we claim we are, and things will begin to fall into shape. What you're saying is we have to approach some kind of sustainability. We have to figure out what works and what doesn't, rather than having the oil companies and Vermont Yankee and the big banks and the 2 major parties that are controlled by big money dictating what we will do.
I see if we don't make changes now, we're going to use up all the natural resources we have in a short amount of time. And so we have to do something.
But that will take building a consensus, and when we can't even agree on whether a windmill on a hillside is something that would be supportable, or whether it's a windmill on this hillside versus that one,
Well,
how do we do that?
Well, maybe we start by electing me and Aaron to the Vermont State Senate, so that at least this perspective, which does not exist in the Senate, would be there, so that, people don't think I'm a flaming radical. They realize I'm a regular guy, and I would go up there and I'm not going to shake my fist and say, "Workers of the world, unite. You have nothing to lose by your change." I'm going to say, let's reason together. Let's listen to each other. But the way it is now, well, there's this, people in the legislature, they're pretty pragmatic. And there's something to be said for that. I'm not saying that that's all bad, and I'm not opposed to getting through the legislature that which is possible. I know that a number of my friends in the Democratic Party and a number of independents are committed to that. But maybe we need some people, some voices outside the system that get beyond the forums, and maybe the Senate needs to be changed a little bit.
That's one of the reasons I put my name on the ballot, is to get out a different perspective, to lead the way. I may not be able to make any changes, but I want to get out there and at least get the idea implanted in people's minds.
So being able to start the discussion is just as important as what one would call victory.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
I don't think it's just as important, but the victory has to start somewhere.
Victory starting and raising awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think anybody really knows to what extent the Liberty Union Party over the years has influenced the degree to which politics in Vermont may be a little bit more humanistic or progressive than it's been in the past. We don't really know. We don't really know the long-term effects that we have on each other. You, as a Hall of Fame journalist, and congratulations, by the way, don't really know what effect you have on people. You're just going out doing your job every day. And that's what I did as a teacher at Marlborough College for almost 4 decades. You don't really know the effect that you're going to have on people. So the Liberty Union Party has done what it can and will continue to do so, and we'll see.
Gentlemen, in case anybody would like to hear more from you and hear more about the Liberty Union message, how can they get a hold of either of you?
Call me at 802-254-8513. I don't have an email.
A Luddite, I appreciate
I'm not a Luddite. I'm just computer illiterate. I'm not a Luddite. A Luddite is someone who's against all technology, all machines. I'm not against the internet, and I'm not against computers. I just choose to be illiterate.
I stand corrected.
I never counseled my students to do that. I guess in this day and age, to be a legitimate person, you have to know how to use the computer. So I live with the fact that I'm marginalized in many ways. And if I was elected, I would probably be the first recently elected person to the Vermont Senate who was computer illiterate. And then I'd see to what extent my colleagues would be willing to accommodate me. We'll see.
Aaron?
Way to reach me. I'm not completely computer illiterate. I have an email address, but I don't check it every day. So I guess my home phone is 802-254-2246.
Well, both of you, always a delight to speak with you. Thank you so much.
Tim, it's been great.
Thank you. Jerry Levy?
Aaron, it's a
Aaron
pleasure
Douglas.
working
Yeah,
with you.
And again, the election in Vermont is Tuesday, November the 4th. This is Tim Johnson. Thanks for watching. Remember to vote.